Board Game Specialists. I'm Carla,
And I'm Melanie.
and today we are working down our top 100. We're doing 80 to 71 today.
That's right.
I know my list. I have more lighter games. I just have one heavy game and one medium. The rest are fairly light. What about you?
Yeah, it's kind of I've got it written down. I've got a lot of like small games.
Yeah.
Just because those other ones we love to play and play them so much. I have a few smaller games. I would say none of these are like very heavy games as
Yeah.
far as like difficulty level.
Awesome. Well, before we start into that, what have you been playing lately?
Yeah, actually, we're going to be starting with you.
Oh, right. Mine. Because you've done the
It's just the way the
presentation.
presentation is
Right,
set
right.
up, right? And then I'm just reusing it again and again, so it's always you first now. But yeah, so what we've played lately, starting with Carla.
So I've been playing some like fall ish games, and so I pulled out some of my farming games. And this one I hadn't played in a while, but I had received the an expansion to it. So learned the
Nice.
expansion and pulled it out. And this is called Fields of Arle. And the expansion is the Tea and Trade expansion, which it's a two-player game, but the Tea and Trade makes it a three-player version.
Oh, I see.
And
Okay, yeah.
yeah, and
Did you
so
play it two or three
we
players?
played it at three, and you can play it
Nice.
solo as well. And I learned it with the solo at with the expansion. But now I have to say this I think is my ultimate favorite farming game. The only
Oh.
thing it lacks is like in Agricola, when you put down a wheat or a pumpkin, it turns into two or three. That's the only thing that I just adore about those games. But this one, everything else is awesome. So it's a huge sprawling table eater. Like it's the picture you have there. Yeah, that is a three-player setup, but it's not a whole lot different even for a solo setup because you have
Yeah, because
this.
I used your picture that you shared on our
Oh, okay.
Discord group.
Yeah. So you have this long board of worker placement spots. And so that's kind of in the middle. And I have it sideways because it won't really go upwards or it would kind of probably be off the table. Then you have spots to purchase vehicles, and then the expansion adds boats because
Oh,
it'll
okay,
add some
nice.
trading in there. Now you have four workers, everybody has four, and you start in the summer. And so one side of that longboard is the summer, and the other side is winter. So you
Hmm.
can take all your actions in summer. Two people could take an action in winter while they're in summer, but they will give up first player token. So if you were going to be next in line to be first player and you entered took a action on the other side, you would be giving that up. Now, if you were going to be last, it really wouldn't affect you, but you may want to do that because some of the things might be blocked in summer that you really needed to do. So you might have wanted to jump over there. There is also some action spots that can imitate actions, so you're not too locked out. There's ways to get something that you need. And what you're doing in this is you are going to different spots to like gain wood, to turn wool into like a weaving loom. You're going to go to the ovens and cook things with like your wheat that you have. You're going to go build some dikes because you have on your player board you have different field spots, but then you have a dike line, and then you're wanting to push it up so that you have more spots to grow, breed animals, to plant crops, and to put your buildings basically.
Hmm.
The expansion adds, so there's still a bunch more, but the expansion adds boats for trading. It adds tea. So what tea does is nice because whatever your action is that you place your worker on, if you pay a tea, you can bump up the tool because most of the actions have certain tools on them, and you want to upgrade your tools because it'll give you more actions every time you go to that spot. The tea would act like you have an extra tool. If you paid two tea, you would act like you had another extra tool. Now you could
Oh, cool.
actually pay an upgraded tea to take a double action there. So the wood and clay and tea and all the different resources that you can get, the tiles, you can upgrade them. You can upgrade them by putting them in one of your vehicles or even on your boats. And they will be sent off that round and they come back flipped over and upgraded to a better, like clay would be to brick, would be to timber, tea would be to East Frisian tea. And then some of the things like the weaving loom will flip over and it'll become a jacket kind of thing.
Oh,
So
okay,
these
cool.
things will give you points at the end, but there's also use for them. With your vehicles, you can ship things. So you can ship. There's these little tiles that will ship to different places, like Essen. You can go to Essen, and it'll have things on it that you can ship, and it'll give you a bunch of food. So I might want like a coat, and if I put that tile down, I will have to get rid of my coat, but it's going to give me a bunch of food. So, and then not just that, then at the when the new round starts, you're going to flip that tile that you shipped over to the side of your board and it becomes points. So it's really neat because on the left side of your board, you're going to put the tile the long way, and whatever points you have covered up by the end of the game, that's how many points you'll get for all the shipping. But plus, you've gotten a whole bunch of food along the way because you still have to feed your people. Well, it's not really people, but it's the same amount of food every round. It doesn't matter how many animals you have or whatnot. And the nice thing about this one, even though it's an Uwe Rosenberg game, you get to breed, but not just like 8 cows give you 1 cow. If you have a whole bunch of stalls or stables with at least 2 in them, they will all breed. So they'll give you a bunch of animals, and the sheep will give you milk and wool, and cows will give you milk. You'll want to use horses for like some of your plows or some of your vehicles. So
Mm.
there's all kinds of things to do. Plus, there's all these buildings that will give you a whole bunch of points that you kind of will build up to be able to buy near the end of the game. It's such a good game. I know it's not talked about a lot, probably because it's such I would say it's a heavy game, but longer as well. If
Mm,
people
yeah.
don't know what they're doing and have to kind of read everything, it could take a long time. But I just love this game. It definitely right now is my favorite farming game. But
Nice.
what about you? What have you been playing?
So, Bernie and Bernie texted the group last week and they're like, so who wants to play? And then Travis is like, ooh, I could maybe arrange to play, host, or go somewhere. And then I was like, fingers crossed. I was like, oh, please host, because he's 30 minutes away from me, so
Oh
it's
yeah,
really
nice.
close. So then he's like, okay, so it looks like I might be hosting. Can you come? And I was like, yep, I can come. So I went over there. And we ended up playing a new game that he got. Now, Foundations of Rome is a game that I absolutely love. I quite enjoy it. It is very expensive. It is massive. I have no intentions of purchasing it ever. But what he had over there was Foundation of Metropolis, which is the remake of Foundation of Rome. And so most of the time it's like, oh, they're going to remake it and then do it all deluxe. And this one is like the opposite. They're gonna remake it and make it tone it
Affordable.
down.
Yeah.
But because Foundation of Rome takes a whole cubby in a Calyx shelf. It takes a
Mm.
whole cubby to itself. And I mean, and it's a good game, but this is a game that plays, I would say, kind of like 30 minutes an hour. Like it plays fairly
Yeah, it's a
quick.
fast game.
So for what it is, like it's not, I don't know. And then the price tag is at least $300. So they just came out with this one. And now I was excited about this one to make it more affordable. I was kind of like, it's too bad though, because Foundation of Rome is so well organized. It'll be sad to have that go away. But it didn't. It's still super well organized. And here's what it looks like. So you have your player board still that has all the cardboard pieces and then inlay in this board because there's like little holes where all of this fits. And just like in Foundation of Rome, when you pick up a piece, you have underneath that shows what it does so you can quickly see when you're scoring on your own board what you're getting, how much money you're getting, how many points do you have, and all of that is quickly visible there as well. Now, gameplay wise, this game is exactly like Foundation of Rome.
Nice.
It doesn't change the gameplay in any way. The rules are all the same. It just works all the same, which honestly I'm kind of glad about, because Foundation of Rome is such a good game. In fact, when we did our top 50 episode, episodes, it was 5 of them. That one made my list, even though I don't own and I never intended to own. Now this one, you've ordered it for me. Actually, we did a group buy, so I have this
got
one
shipping
coming.
notice. It's on its way.
Ooh. Ooh. But yeah, so this one I think is just, it's going to be more manageable to fit in a collection, to afford to add to your collection. And you know, like going on game days and stuff, it's a great game. I think it's great to kind of introduce people to. But then you don't have to carry this big massive box. It's easier to carry to game events. So I really enjoy this one. Now, if you've never played Foundations of Rome or Foundations of Metropolis, the way that this one works is you kind of start with a couple of cards that have a location on the grid. Depending on the number of players, the size of the grid, and then you're going to put your little wooden token to show which location is your own. Now, for colorblind friendly thing, each player's has a different shaped token, so you can kind of quickly identify which one are your own. But then you would kind of put your tokens to show which one are yours, and then you can, on your turn, either take an income or you can build. And if you take an income, then you just bring in some more money. But then if you build, if you acquire, like you would be buying from the cards that are available. And each round we're going to be having a certain amount of cards that becomes available. You're trying to create clusters so that you can fit bigger buildings there. And depending on what you've put, it'll either provide you with population, which is good because population will provide you victory points at the end of each era. It'll provide you, it kind of increase your income. So when you do the income action, you have more money coming in. Or it'll give you victory points based on what is surrounding that particular building. So you kind of want to have some of that going as well. So you just kind of acquire more buildings. Every time you run out of card in an era, you do kind of a tally of points and you do a scoring round based on your population and what you've built so far. And you just kind of keep going until the end of the third era. Then you do your final score. It is so satisfying and it plays fairly quickly. And I think this is just a great, great game. And it's coming and I'm excited. So I'm super excited about the Foundations of Metropolis making it more available because Foundation of Rome was such an amazing game. Now, don't get me wrong, Foundation of Rome looks good. This doesn't have that same pizzazz and table presence that Foundation of Rome has, just because Foundation of Rome is so impressive. But this hits it all. Like, you get the same satisfaction playing this one as you do Foundations of Rome, because basically it is the exact same game.
Yeah, awesome. Look forward to trying this one out. I think I could get John to play this one too. Perfect.
Did you order this one as well?
No, I didn't. I was thinking about it, but I haven't yet. I was going to try it out first to see if.
Yeah.
I mean, I kind of know, but I just want to see.
Yeah, it plays exactly the same. It's just yeah.
Awesome.
Very nice.
All right, so we are getting into our top 80 to 71. Now, my number 80 is one of my favorite filler games. I love chuck and dice, and I like
this one comes up on your list often.
Yeah, it does. And when I chuck dice, I like to roll a lot of dice. So this one is like a dice drafting game, and then also you get to roll. And this is called Dice Miner. So this one, I had seen this when it first came out, and I thought, like, that just kind of looks stupid. I don't know why I thought that. I'm not even sure, but I kept seeing it. Content creators were talking about it and how good it was and everything. And I'm like, okay, I'm just going to give this a try. It's not an expensive game. Grabbed it, picked it up at Wizard's Loft, my local family game store. And wow, did I ever love it.
It's good.
This game, you have all these dice piled up on this mountain. And now I have just the basic game with the
Hmm.
cardboard mountain. You can get a plastic version of the mountain, but I really like the cardboard version.
Yeah, that's what I
Um,
have as well.
the plastic one is just plain gray, but our cardboard one has like colors in it, and and it's like really good cardboard with like a sheen on it, and it just looks awesome, I think. But
Hmm.
anyway, so all these dice are piled up, and you have this little starting like player power. It's just very basic, but everybody has one, and you just draft dice. So the only thing you can do is take dice off the top of the mountain right now, not the sides, the very top. So you can take one, and then if you happen to have taken a beer dice, the next time you can roll that beer, which you give it to somebody else, and you can take two dice. And now you
Yeah.
can take off the top or the sides. And so what you're trying to get are all different kinds of like set collection thing. There's different colors of dice. The white dice are just normal D6s, and you're trying to get sets. You have to start at one, so you can't do like three, four, five. All of it has to start at one, and then you can make as many sets as you possibly can. So if you had a whole bunch of white, you can make a bunch of sets, and they're each worth what their pip value is.
Hmm.
Um, you have black dice, and these ones are you either have dragons on them or you have what I call comets, but they're actually what are they called again? They're explosions.
It's rocks coming down, like,
Yeah,
right?
rocks
Like
coming
it's
down.
avalanche or whatever.
Yeah.
It's not snow, it's rocks.
Now those are just straight on their own negative points, but there's also these green dice, and if you have a shovel, all those comets or like rocks are going to count as positive. And if you had dragons and then you rolled a shield on the green dice, they would be counted as positives as well. So I
Hmm.
really like that mechanic where you can turn all these really bad negative points into positives, and then you can multiply them too. If I have a bunch of shovels, I multiply all my
Yes, that's right.
rocks. You have blue dice that have these little magic symbols on them, and they will let you re-roll dice at the end of the round because you just draft your dice all before you do, like, you figure out what you're gonna do with your dice, if you're gonna roll some or just keep them how they are. There's gold dice, and those are just straight diamonds, and so they are just straight points, and there's like a one or a two or a three on them. So
Hmm.
everybody drafts all their dice, and then whatever's in front of you, if you have some magic, you can re-roll some, and then you score your points. And then if you haven't got any treasure chests, which are also on the green dice, then you will roll all your dice and just keep it all. So then you have all that dice, and then you're going to go through another round and draft a whole bunch more dice, and then you're going to do that one more time. So you're going to have all these pile of dice in front of you, trying to figure out how to make the best combination to give you the best points. And it's just so fun. Like, some
Hmm.
times in the first round you get barely any points and somebody gets a bunch, and then the next round you surpass them and they barely get any. Like, it's not one of those games where if you're way far ahead you can't catch up. You totally can. It's just such a good game, and I think it's a good game for beginners too, like new
Oh
gamers, just
yeah.
to, because everybody knows, like, used to rolling dice and being able to see how they can do different things, and it's just so neat. I just love this game. But yeah, that's my number 80, Dice Miner.
Yeah, that one is cool and it's so good. And it's so funny how much you love this one because we are doing our top 100 games of the games we have talked about in our first top 100 episode of the Board Game Specialist podcast. And this one has made your
I've
list a
probably
few
talked about
times.
it like 10 times at least in different lists.
Probably. So I think one of the first few episodes we did was like our games we play with our family. And I think this might have come
Oh,
up
yeah,
then for you.
probably. Yeah,
But
for sure.
yeah, that's good. Yeah, no, Dice Miner is definitely a good game.
And it's so fast
Perfect.
too. Takes like
Oh,
15
for
minutes to
sure.
play a
It's a
game.
quick one to fit in and
Yeah.
yeah, no, I like it. All right, my number 80 is Love Letter. This is probably by far the most well, it actually I keep track. It used to be Roll for It. It is now Love Letter. This is now surpassed. It is our most played game ever. Mainly because Lily loves it so much. Now, I remember the first time I played Love Letter. We were visiting in New Brunswick and I played it with my siblings. And my brother is notorious for just quickly going over the rules, not explaining like everything, and then just get into it, because that's how my sister wants to learn, right? And we're playing, and I'm like, okay, what is going on? And then it was like, so my brother went first, and he played a guard, and he said, looked at me, and he said, "Are you the prince?" And I'm like, "Yes." He's like, "Hey, you're out of the game." And I was like, wow, this game sucks. But it's actually so good. Yeah, you get eliminated. You will, but it's a quick game, and you do a couple of rounds, and you keep playing because whoever at the end of the game or the round it has the highest valued card or is the last player standing wins the favor of the queen or the princess. And then you would get the love letter, and then depending on the number of players, how many of these you need to collect. We normally play 3, and I think we need to get 5. So the first one to 5 wins. And this is one that I've had to replace my copy because we wore the cards so much. So I don't sleeve cards. This one probably should be sleeved. Because if you wear the card to a certain point, it was like, oh, you got the prince, I can tell. Look at the corner. It's, you got like that recognizable dent. But then you can kind of tell. So I need to find some sleeves and sleeve this one. But it's just so easy to get to the table. It is a tiny little card game. There's 18 cards in this game. That's it. Oh, I'm not even showing you any pictures, but and then you have like the little tokens. Now there's different copies out there. Like there's different copies of the base love letter. This one is kind of neat with like the plastic tokens. I've seen some where they have actual like heart-shaped tokens. The first copy we had just had little red cubes. Now there's also a lot of variation of this. We also like Munchkin letter, which plays exactly the same, but they have like the Duck of Doom, and like the the artwork is more whimsical and it's hilarious. And they've got a bunch of variation as well where they've changed, like Lovecraft letter makes it where if you're sane or insane depends on your winning condition. And, so there's different variation of love letter that's out there. But basic, original love letter, 100% our most played game in our collection. And it's one that we pull out often. Awesome. And that's my number 80.
Yeah, you got a few versions of that, don't you?
Yeah, I think I've got like 6, 7 versions maybe. Because I have the Infinity Stone one. I have the Jabba's Palace one. I have the Lovecraft letter. We have Munchkin. And I have the original love letter. And I think I'm forgetting one possibly. But yeah, so we have lots. There's a Batman one that's out there that I would kind of like to have. There's
we played that prototype one. What was that one?
That one I don't. You know what? I'm not gonna say because I don't know if it's released, and it was pre-testing it. So
gotcha.
To be continued.
There's more coming.
Yeah, there's more coming out every day. But yeah, so that was my number 80 love letter.
All right, my number 79 is Trailblazers. Now, I used to have a game called Pipeline, which I did end up selling. I loved that game at the beginning, and then all of a sudden, I don't know what it was. I just didn't. I realized the only part that I loved about it was connecting the pipes. And so this was made by Ryan Courtney, and so he came out with a 2-player version game that had like a connection as well, which I didn't love. But then he came up with this one. And this was the same kind of like you still are connecting routes kind of thing. But this one has like the nature hiking theme, and you are connecting hiking routes, kayaking routes, and biking routes. Now, how you're doing that is you have a hand of cards, and these cards are plastic. So they are, you don't need to sleeve them, and they are, you can wipe them off. They don't blow away like cards would, so I can play this outside on my deck as well. But you will draft 2 of those cards, and then you will pass your hand to the next player, and so on until you have, I think it's 6 cards, depends on player count. And then you're going to place these cards out, and you will start with one of your camps. You're either going to have a hiking camp, a kayaking camp, or a biking camp, and they're all different colors. And if you you would know which camp you started with, so you might want to work on that camp. And what you're trying to do is have a bunch of routes connected to it, but also connecting back to itself. So it sounds easy, but all these cards have different colored routes on them, and they're all going different ways. And so you have this big plan at first. You're like, oh, okay, I'm gonna do a whole bunch of routes here, or I'm gonna make this one big long one. And then you start it, and then the end of the game is coming. You're like, I'm not gonna finish that route. I should have made it smaller. But what you're trying to do is, like I said, either make a bunch of little ones or big ones. You have these in-game goals that you're trying to accomplish and end-game goals. And so that could decide what kind of routes you're going to build. But if you use the animal expansion, which I think it actually comes with the base game, but it's just another kind of part of a way you can play it. Every time an animal shows up on one of the cards, you can decide to place it on there. And the only reason you may not want to do that is that these cards can overlap each other, but if you have an animal there, you cannot overlap it then. But you want all different unique animals on each of your routes, because then they will each score. If I had two bears on one route, only one of them's going to score, so there's no point. But it's just so puzzly and satisfying, because you always have these big plans and you can never accomplish all of them. You will, and hopefully accomplish some, but it's just so funny because you're like, oh yeah, I can totally make 3 routes around here. That's easy. And do one big one here. And then all of a sudden you get these cards and you're like, I'm not getting the cards I need. Or somebody sees that they have the perfect card for you. So they're like, I'm keeping this one back. But it's it has a solo version, which is awesome too. And it's just such a satisfying route building, tile connecting game that is, the theme is right up my alley. But yeah, that's my number 79, Trailblazers.
Yeah, this one was cool. The picture on here is the one when you brought it over to my game day one day. And we played it. And then like the components, like the little meeples with all the shaped animals are just super neat.
Yeah. And then you can get a travel version of this, which it just comes in this little I don't even know what those are called. It's almost like just a little pack that you can hook onto your backpack. And instead of the animals, I think it just has cardboard tokens, but it still has a whole set of cards. Like you can totally play the whole game within this little compact version of it. It's really neat.
That's cool.
We got it with our deluxe game too, so we have both. But even just buying that little, travel version is awesome.
Very nice. All right, my number 79 is my favorite word game. In fact, when we did our top 9 word games, I forgot about it and I didn't even put it on the list. So, because it would have been my number 1. But that is Wordsy. And I think Wordsy is just so satisfying to play. Now, the big problem with word games is people that have a very vast vocabulary has a huge advantage. And because, you have like, here are the letters, what can you do with this? And you got to try to come up with a word, and having a big vocabulary makes a big difference. In this case, it doesn't provide that much of an advantage, because you have the cards with all the different letters that you can use in the word that you're going to provide this round. And each card are worth a certain, or each letters are going to be worth a certain value. And so what's going to happen is you're going to look at what the letters are and you're going to come up with a word that uses them. But you're not limited to just these letters. You can add whatever you want. Now, in this example, if your word was cats, C-A-T-S, you would score 11 points, which is a fairly high scoring points. Like coming up with a big word might not even give you that much more. But it's really interesting because there's like a speed element to it as well. The first one to come up with the word takes like the first player marker, and then everybody else tries to finish the word. And if you were like if you have more points than the first player, the quickest player, you get a bonus for that. Now, if nobody was faster than the quickest player and you're the quickest player, like and nobody got more points than what your word brought in, then you get the bonus. So, but because you went so fast, did you give up potential points? And it's kind of interesting that way. But then if you were the quickest player, you can't take it next round either. There's kind of a limitation on that, so you can't just take advantage of that again and again. Then after everybody's put one word, some of the letters go away, the rest of the letters shift, so they become more valuable, and then new letters come out. And then you come up with a different word, and you can't use words that have been used in the past rounds. But I like this one so much. And I think that as far as word games being so forgiving with you could just come up with whatever words you want. It's like, I don't know, I couldn't think of anything, I did bats. Like, it's like it's so forgiving, but you still get a decent score potentially depending on what the value of the words are. I really, really like this one. So that's my number 79. We're on 79? Yeah, my number 79, Wordsy.
Yeah, good choice. I know I had this game early on in my gaming career, and then I sold it. Actually, no, I gave it away, and then I regretted it. And it's not in print anymore, but I ended up finding it again. And we played it
Nice.
early morning of Card Treat one day.
Yeah, we
the
did.
Second day, we were all up at like 6 before going back to our convention. We sat at my table and played a bunch of games.
Yeah.
Couldn't get enough. But yeah, I like this game too. Good choice.
Yeah, that's a good one.
All right, my number 78 is St. Petersburg. Now, this is the second edition because, and there's a difference. The second edition adds a whole other market board, not a separate board, but the board is different than just the base St. Petersburg. So this is mostly a card game. So you have all these cards out on this big board and you're just going to draft them basically, but you do have to pay for them with money, and it is paper money, but it's a little bit thicker paper money. It's not bad.
And if you don't like it, just replace it with
chips
coins anyways, right?
Or poker chips or something like that. But
right.
So you take all these cards, and as soon as you buy them, they go face up like in front of you in a tableau. Now you have different phases. In the first phase, you are drafting these workers. They may not even be called workers, but they're all different types of workers, and they will give you an amount of money at the end of this phase. So how you do that is you'll purchase them, or not purchase, I guess you'll hire them basically. And then if you hire the same type, then you get a discount. So you might try to get a whole bunch of one kind because they're going to be super cheap to hire as time goes on. But you don't have a whole lot of money. So you might hire like maybe 2 or 3 at the first round, and then you'll get, they might cost like $3 to $5 each, and then they give you, I can't remember how much, maybe $2-3 each. And then the next phase, you are drafting these, they're called not royalties, but something of that effect. And they are like a set collection thing where you want completely unique ones, but you may get some similar ones at the beginning because, like I said, the one similar one you buy, you get a discount, and they will give you other points or money. In this edition, that second phase is a market phase, so it gives you all different types of food resources and things, fish and wheat and stuff, and that will move you up this track that is on the side of the board. This is not in the first edition, this part. Mm-hmm. And so you're just going to be moving up your little tokens, and then at the end of this round, you score for whoever's got the most of that. So you might not even focus on this, but it does give you a lot of points, so it just adds one extra thing. The next one is buildings. You are purchasing buildings that a lot of them will give you ongoing bonuses. Some will just give you big end game points, and some of them are quite expensive. Another thing is if you upgrade from a type of building to a higher one, some of them will have a little upgrade symbol in their top right corner, I think, and then you only have to pay the difference. So throughout the game, you can maybe buy some cheaper buildings and then later on upgrade them without having to pay that big cost. And then The phase after that is the one where it's like the royalties and you're trying to get unique ones. And then there's a final phase where it has multiple things in it and you just don't know what's going to come up. But the neat thing is these cards all line up in a line, and if nobody has drafted some, they kind of move to the bottom and they'll become a little bit cheaper, but then they
Oh,
block
okay.
spots. So if nobody's buying stuff, there's not much new stuff coming out. So you want to you want collectively as a whole to try and buy stuff. Some maybe you won't even need it, but because you want more workers to come out because that's going to give you the more income. So some games you have everybody's super cheap and you're like, I don't want to spend my money. And then all of a sudden there's one worker coming out and it's like, oh, we're never going to increase our income. But it's really tight and puzzly in order to get on the other side of having lots of money to be able to do things. But it's such a neat game, and it's on BGA, just the
Okay, cool.
basic game version. But it's like an older Euro, but wow, did they have that puzzly what do I give up to get this kind of feel for the game. That I always find those older Euros did that. The decision making was so tough because it's like I don't know what to do to get that, but I need this to get that, so now I'm gonna have to do a couple rounds to get a few dollars so that I can get this, and it just makes your brain burn. It looks like it's a simple game. The rules are very simple, but it's very, very thinky, and I love
Nice.
this one. And that's St. Petersburg. This was the one I was trying to convince you to buy from Justin. I like you need this game, but I don't know if he had the first version or the second.
I wonder if I bought it.
I
I don't know,
don't
though.
think
Maybe
you
I
did.
didn't. But the thing is, because and he did as well. I was like, oh, this one is really the cheeky monkey one, and I didn't buy, and I kick
Oh
myself
right.
now for it. But I was like, well, Justin, I can't buy all your
Yeah.
games. I physically don't have the room, and my wallet doesn't have the room.
You
I was
might
like,
still have it if you haven't sold it
no,
already.
if it's not here, he doesn't anymore, right? So
Oh, you got rid of them all?
yeah. So they're all placed now. Either I purchased them, which a lot of them I did, or they got sold. So
Oh, gotcha.
it's the collection has been
Oh,
distributed.
maybe you
But
do have it then. I don't know. I didn't see
I'd
it.
have to check. I mean, looking at this doesn't look familiar. Hold on, I'm gonna have a
It's a
quick peek just because.
blue box.
The other one is a blue box, right?
Yeah,
All right. So, and then I
which
might
is
not
good
have,
as well. Like the market doesn't. It's not like it, makes or breaks the game.
I don't know. It doesn't look like I do.
No. Okay.
No, so I don't think I purchased that one. Look at me with all my self-control.
Yeah, so much.
Or, it's possible that somebody else bought it and I was like, okay, that's a sign.
Yeah.
That means I shouldn't have bought it. Nice. So that was your number 78. My number 78 is a game that I played for the first time with you at Gobfest on the last day at the last hour before it was over. And we ran into a friend and he had brought it there. I was like, okay, will you teach it to us? And I loved it. And then I was like, okay, I need it. And then I hunted down my own copy afterwards. And that was Awkward Guests. So I like deduction games, right? This has a very strong clue feel to it, but it takes it next level a little bit. So you're going to have your little board where you keep everything behind, and the board kind of shows everything, and you have the map of the location and each of the characters, and you need to figure out who was a murderer, what weapon, where was the where the murder take place, or where did they come from, because the murder I think always takes place in the same place, but what room were they in and where did it come from. But you're going to be investigating people, right? And then what's going to happen is you're going to get cards that are going to have different clues, and the cards could be from the staff, and it's like, well, I saw so and so were chatting together, so okay, well then they were together, so it was probably not one of them because it couldn't have gone away. Now, depending on the level you play, because you can play at a higher difficulty where there's an accomplice as well. So then it's adds oh my god. But anyway, so if you're playing at the original level, okay, so it's not them. Or then you get a report from the forensic scientist or whatever, and he's like, hey, he died from blunt force trauma. So it's oh, okay, so it could be the hammer, it could have been the candlestick, or it could have been and it you can kind of get a sense. So it's not just like, oh, here I have the revolver, so then it's not the revolver because you have the revolver. It's more involved than that. Plus, then you're going to be like, okay, so you have all your clues, you mark everything down. Then you're going to take turn kind of being the active player, and you're going to say, okay, I would like to know about this character or this room, or you kind of give a combination of what type of information you would like to know about. And then everybody's going to look at their hands, and they're going to make an offer. Say, okay, well, I have clues about that person for a value of 3. And if you accept their clues and accept what they're offering you, you need to provide clues from your own hand for that same value cost. And then you would swap out the cards, and then you look at the new clues and be like, oh, okay. And it really is annoying when you do this and you get clues that you've already seen. It's like, oh man, I get nothing new. But so, and you're trying to like keep clues that you don't show anybody as well. And then after the first round of this, after everybody's kind of had a turn, then you discard some cards and new cards come out and you get new information. And like each time you play the game, because there's 200 cards in there, and then for each scenario that you played, now there's scenarios in the book, but you can also use an app. You have a specific number of cards to pull out that kind of changes the whole story. So depending on the cards that got put into play, the story and what's happening is completely different. And you're just playing, trying to figure out who it is. Now, what's nice with playing with the app is if you're like, okay, I'm gonna make an accusation. And then you take the app and you kind of secretly put what you think it is. And they'll either tell you, yes, you're right, but you gotta be right about everything, or no, you're wrong. And if you're wrong, you put it back, but you're still in the game because you didn't see the solution. And you can continue to play, which I really like that about the app. Like, you don't eliminate yourself and be like, all right, it wasn't that, so let's keep going. They've got a new one that came out and I've purchased. It was Scandalo, where you're kind of more tabloid journalist and you're trying to get, like the dirty information on all these public figures, which I haven't played yet, but it looks kind of funny. And then they also came out with Awkward Guest 2, so a new version that kind of
It's a 2-player version, I think.
Oh, is it just 2 players?
I think it's just a 2-player version, yeah.
Oh, okay, yes. I haven't looked too much into that one.
Yeah.
But yeah,
I don't know for sure, but
yeah. But yeah, so Awkward Guest, just absolutely loved it. So as soon as after we played it, I hunted down my own copy. We've played it lots at Malcon. Last time I had Malcon in Didsbury. And it's just a great, fun game. And that's my number 78, Awkward Guests.
Awesome. Speaking of duels or 2-player games, like that is the theme this year. They were making a duel everything. They're making a duel. Yeah. Res Arcana is coming out. Res Arcana Duel.
Oh, really?
They made like Lord of the Rings Duel, which looks interesting. But you just sent me a picture today. So excited. It's a duel. No, is it called Duel, or is it called?
Yeah.
No, I forget. Or is it Duel?
It's just the title Duel.
Yeah, a Duel Azul. That's awesome. And it looks like a completely different game with like gorgeous color scheme. But like Duel is the word, is the
it's the word this year
of 2024 because everything's duel, and I love it because I mean, me and John play games. And it's perfect for me to bring out with him because most of these duel games are short games. They're like a half hour, maybe an hour, so they're just
nice.
Perfect. But yeah,
I wonder how it changes, and it looks like the board that holds the tiles are a little different. So I'm curious to see it.
Yeah.
I'm actually part of a group, the New Brunswick Boardgame group. I don't live in New Brunswick, but that's where I'm from. So I joined that group anyways. And then when I was visiting, like I was chatting on there, okay, I'm going to be in New Brunswick. Where should I check out? So, and then I saw it on that one. So I was like, oh my God, I need to send this to Carla. She's going to go nuts.
I know. I was like, I must have it. Yes. I love it. But speaking of duels, my number 77 is a 2-player only game, and that's Sky Team.
Nice, yes.
This one, when it came out, well, we couldn't get copies. It wasn't available in Canada. JT from Flipside, or what they call it?
Flipside of Boardgame, yeah.
Boardgaming. He raved about it to us. He's like, I will ship it over to you. What's your address? And I'm like, oh no, I can wait. And like both of us are like, we'll wait for it. Because we don't have to have the most newest version of anything at the given point.
No.
Like we'll wait because we have so many other games we can play. But
it's not a problem, yeah.
Yeah. We'll wait. It'll come to us one day. And finally, it came to Canada. You got a French version. I got an English version. And I
ordered an English version. It showed up in French.
Really?
Which is not a problem. I can speak French. But I mean, like, it's... I'm sorry?
Was it from Amazon?
Yes.
Ooh,
Silly
I would have...
Amazon. I'm not impressed.
I would have...
But I wanted it from Malcon. It arrived just before, so I'm like, well, I'm not returning it because I want to keep it for the weekend, but...
Right. But yeah, it's such a cool game. It's a dice selection game where you're a pilot, one's a co-pilot, and the pilot has the blue dice, the co-pilot has the orange, and you sit on opposite sides of the board. So the board is lengthways in front of you, and you are just trying to land this plane. And how you go about that is by placing dice. You have 4 dice, to place every round, and you are trying to balance out the wings, to open the flaps, to what else? You're trying to clear the runways of all these other planes.
Get your landing gears down.
Landing gears and all different things that just the dice will do. But the thing is, you have these like shields in front of you, so you don't know what the other person's dice are, and you can't talk about it. You can't be like, oh, I have a 6 here, so you need to put this because you need to like even out things, or you might have to like offset something. But you have to do it with, you can communicate before the round starts, but you still can't say what your dice is.
Yeah.
You have these little coffee cups at the bottom that you can place dice in, and those will mitigate the dice, like up or down 1 pip. And it's just so like neat and satisfying. And there's a solo mode. You can play this solo. I play this on BGA a lot with our friend Mur. We've crashed many planes, but we've landed a few as well. And there's like multiple little mini expansions in the box, which I haven't even started because while we were playing one on BGA, some of this new stuff came in, and I'm like, I don't have a clue what that is. He's like, what? You have the game. How do you not know? But I've only played the base, and it just still can't get enough of just the base.
So on BGA, it's just the first scenario you play again and again.
No, it pulled up new ones, and that's why I was like, what is this? What does this mean?
Oh, I see. Okay,
Because once you play a lot of, like, if you play a certain game for a while in there, and it does have the expansion, it'll just pop it in there.
Oh,
so sometimes I'm like, oh, I don't know what this is. So I had to go back, look at my rules, and like, oh, okay, that's what that does. But it's just so neat. It's such a cool, clever game. I think it's won like awards. I don't know if it won the Spiel des Jahres, but I think it was nominated for it.
I think it did. It was nominated for sure. Thank you.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I can't remember. I always like take note of all the nominees, but I never really take note of the winners because it doesn't really matter to me.
They're all winners to us.
Yeah, well, I'll usually be like, oh, that one should win, and then I don't really care because what I think will win is what wins in my heart. But this was it's a really good 2-player game, and again, a quick game. I can't get enough of the quick games lately because then you can just play more. You know?
Exactly.
And, like, I do like my heavy games, but after, you can only get 3-4 hour games to the table so often. And if you have a game day, you get 2 of those. Whereas if you have a bunch of like smaller ones in there, it feels like you're just, I don't know. We both like to have variety. That's one thing we have in common, big time. And we just like to have so many different choices and so many different things to play. But
yeah.
This one is a must, I think. If anyone likes dice, if they like 2-player, cooperative. I didn't mention it's cooperative, obviously, but it's just awesome. Yeah, it's my number 77, Sky Team.
Yeah, it was interesting because, you have like planes in the way that you have to radio to move them out of the way so you don't crash in the air, and you have to land at the airport at the right altitude, like at the ground level, but at the right time so you don't overshoot the airport or you don't come short. And It's interesting. It was really well thought out.
Yeah.
We played a couple of, like, I played this for the first time at FallCon, so I just played it. I bought it
Oh,
in
really?
June, but I didn't play it at MelCon.
Hmm.
My copy got played, but it was just not played by me. So me and my brother played it. Actually, we did a live stream of it, so you can find that on my YouTube channel. And we ended up playing like two different scenario. We did like the Montreal one, which I think is the first one, and then we did another one. I don't remember what it was called, but it changes the conditions a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
sometimes you have to land your plane at like an angle.
At an angle if something
even.
is going on, or if there's wind, like it's gonna start introducing different things like that too. Yeah.
It's very clever. I know there's expansion coming out. I don't know what they could possibly add more, and just maybe more scenarios. But there's a lot in that base game that. It will be a while before you would need an expansion for this one.
For sure. Yeah. No, Sky Team was great. All right, my number 77 is, and I'm looking at my list because I don't remember what it was. And this is like the game that made me realize maybe I do like area control games. I thought I didn't because I hated Risk. But I played this one, I was like, okay, this is definitely an area control game, and I loved it. And this is Viral. Now, Viral is such an interesting game, and it's so whimsical looking, but the board is the body. So you have all the organs of the body, and you have the bloodstream that travels from one organs to the other, and so on. And each player is a different virus, and we're trying to be the virus that infects the body the most. And you get points for that. And you can become a super virus. So if they get vaccinated, your virus doesn't die, but it just degrades a little bit. And you'd be like, okay, well, I'm going to go and infect the lungs. So it's like, well, I'm going to go in the heart or the brain, or I'm going in the kidneys. And then it's like, okay, well, I have more of my virus in the kidneys. When we score, I'm going to score the most here. And each round, different things will happen. And what I really like the whole side of the board there has like the best depiction of what needs to happen in the round. So first you do this, and then you flip the card and you do what the card says, and then you place your virus and you can move them around, and then you do this, and then you kind of confirm who has the play order now if it's changed, and so on. And it's good, and it looks neat, and the artwork is just fun, and it's just a satisfying game. And I like area control game, and Viral proved that to me. Have you played this one, Carla?
Yeah, I used to play this at my very first little cafe, and I liked it too. At first, I hated it because I hate area control, but then, same as you, I kept playing this game, and I'm like, oh, okay, maybe I like it a little bit. It's so unique too. Like it's very cool. Do you own this one?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Nice. Okay, because I don't think it's an easy one to find either.
I don't know if it is now. Yeah, I remember the brothers Murph talked about it.
Yeah.
And they made it sound so great. And I can't remember if I know I bought it secondhand when I did buy it, but nice. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll have to play this because I do like it, but I don't like area control.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure this made my list when we did our top area control games. Right. Yeah.
All right, my number 76 is a solo game that is probably my most played game every year. This is called A Gentle Rain. This is just a simple little tile laying game where you have this stack of tiles, and they're just these beautiful thick cardboard with this nice finish, and you just flip one over, and then the next one you flip, and you will attach it to that one somehow. Now, what you're trying to do is you're trying to get a connection with 4 that will connect together so that you can place a flower, which is a little wooden disc of a color of the flower that you have at least one connection in that square. And then you have, I think it's about, is it 8 or 10 flowers that you're just trying to place them all. And you're trying to place them all as quick as possible, because if you place them all before you run out of tiles, you win. But if you can place them and have tiles left over, you win more
Oh, you win more.
You win better. No. It's just it's just a real simple game that takes literally 5-10 minutes. And it's so neat because in the instruction it literally says, now take a deep breath and grab some tea or something and just
Yeah, yeah.
relax. And that's what it is. It's just pretty and cute, and it plays quick, but it's still really thinky, because sometimes you'll place tiles and you're like, oh, now I've blocked myself because I have two colors connecting to each other, which the no tile will go there because there's no tile that has two of one color on it. So if you've made that happen with a connection of another one, then you've blocked yourself there. So you have to be careful of that. And then sometimes you're making too many different teas kind of, and not enough like how to explain it. It's you just have to look at a picture of this because it makes sense. If you like don't have enough connections and you make too many things that where you can't connect tiles, then it's going to be impossible. But you play it a few times and you start to get the hang of it and what is the best kind of thing to do. You start to look, okay, if I place this here, well, I need an orange and a pink connected this way, but I already have that up there in that same combination. So I'm going to put it somewhere else so that it gives me another option of combinations. And it just comes in this cute little box where it's just nice and really, really tiny that like you can, it's an easy travel box. It's just so neat and satisfying. And this is my number 76, A Gentle Rain.
Yeah, I have not tried this one,
Nope.
but I don't solo game. And I know it's like, oh, but you would like it. It's like, true, but most of the time I wouldn't pull out a solo game.
Right.
That's when I do videos instead, or I watch videos or listen to podcasts. I don't. To me, board game is too social, so I almost never solo game. But yeah, I mean, it looks cool. So maybe I hope I don't become a solo player. That just seems to open a whole other can of worm.
Well, most of your games you can solo, so you don't even have to buy
it. There is that. I've got a lot of soloable games.
Yeah. It kind of took over puzzling for me because I was a huge puzzler. But
okay, yeah.
This, I get the same feel where I just sit and relax and have to use my brain, and then I just get lost in time. Yeah.
Very nice. Very nice. Oops, sorry. Okay, my number 76. I think we talked about this one when we did our top 9 crime-themed games. That was a while ago. I think it was called Crime-Themed Game or something like that. I've played this with you before. This is also the game I've played when we first met Ashley, and she was amazing at it. And that is Deception Murder in Hong Kong. Now, I suck at this game. When I play this game, everybody seems so suspicious that I have no idea who it really is because I think it's all of you. But the way that this game plays is you take turn being the forensic scientist, and the forensic scientist is going to be providing the clues. Now, he doesn't talk. He has cards in front of him that'll have different categories, and you'll put a little wooden bullet next to the category that would match what happened in the murder. Now, what's going to happen is one of those where everybody closes their eyes, the murderer opens their eyes, and in front of them, everybody has 4 cards that are 4 murder weapons and 4 items that were left at the crime scene. And then it's like, hey, murderer, point to what was at the crime. And they'll point to a weapon and they'll point to an item. And then it's like, hey, then everybody close their eyes again. And then you start. And you have so many opportunities to do an accusation. And if you don't guess both things wrong, you fail, but then you can try again. So we go around and there's a set of clues of like, okay, death, suffocation. Well, Carla has the pillow. That could have suffocated a person, and then it's like, the time of day was in the morning. Okay. But, Ashley has the coffee. Coffee was left. You have coffee in the morning, so maybe it was her. But then what would be the suffocation thing? And you take turn trying to talk about what you think your theory is basically. But then as a murderer, you're going to take your turn trying to get people off your trail as well. And everybody sounds so guilty. And it's like, oh my God, I have no idea. It is fun. I enjoy this game. I completely suck at it, but it's so interesting in what people will come up with. And I remember playing with Mike and his daughter, and they were going, and I was like, I don't know. And it was like, and when you have more players, like you can also have like an accomplice. So then they're kind of like trying to put, put the blame on somebody else. It's like, oh yeah, oh no, I see what you mean. Okay, yeah, it probably is Lee. And he's like, I am so not guilty, but it's neat. It is so interesting. And then you just kind of looked at the combination of what everybody has and who it could be. And I absolutely love this game. It is so fun. So that is my number 76, Deception Murder in Hong Kong.
Yeah, I'd only played it the one time at your place, but
Oh,
it
wow.
was
Yeah.
fun. It's interesting to like just look at people and try to read their bluff or
Oh, geez. Yeah.
you know, yeah, it's fun. All right, my number 75 is Keystone North America. Now, this one is another nature themed game, but it is
You have
beautiful.
a
The art
few
in
of
it.
those.
I have a few, just a couple. But this one is another like puzzly, but sort of like Sudoku like puzzle game where you are
Mm.
drafting these animals and you're placing them on your grid, but you need to place them consecutively, either up, like numbers going higher, or numbers going lower. And you do that in rows and columns. So
Oh, okay.
to try and figure out, okay, I'm gonna go 1 2 3 4 here, but then I'm gonna go down. Oh, okay, well, I have a 3, so I'm not going to be able to go 4 5 6 because it only goes up to 5. So you have to give and take in some areas. You can't get a perfect grid. But that's not the only thing. These animals all have little tags on them. And so you're trying to have tags that are like the other ones in the row or column, because then that will score as a, I don't know if they call it an ecosystem. It's some sort of grouping that you'll be able to score. There's also other
Okay.
tags on there that have like different weather icons, and those are part of some in-game bonuses that you'll get, or end game, I guess, that you're trying to accomplish those in certain patterns. So you might have an L shape of like all these wintry symbols. So you're trying to place those in an L while still doing all the other stuff. So you can take that action of just drafting a card and placing it, or you have these little tiles in front and you can choose one of those actions. And sometimes an action will just give you a bunch more acorns. And what those are for are, when you're drafting the tiles, just like in like Century Spice Road, the first one is free. The second one, you need to put an acorn on that first one to get the second one. If you want the one all the way down at the end, you have to place one in each one in order to take it. Another thing you can do with one of the middle tiles is draw from the deck. So you might not like anything that's out there, and you can draw a
Mm-hmm.
couple cards and choose one. And then I think you discard it, or there's one that you can dig out of the discard pile. And there's all different things you can do to just make your puzzle as perfect as possible. But again, you can't have perfection. So that's where the thinky puzzle comes in, because you're like, okay, what am I going to give up? Am I going to give up that top row so I can make this bottom one perfect and possibly one of these columns? You also have these keystone symbols on there, and those are multipliers. So once you score one of
Oh.
those row or columns, if you have keystones in it, it will double or triple or quadruple however many you have there. So you might really try to work on getting like one really, really strong row and then just have some connections to it. You might, just have some really good rows, but not like awesome ones. But at least you can get like 3 good ones and not worry about the columns. It's just all different kinds of, puzzly things that I love. And it's just awesome and it's beautiful. So that's my number 75, Keystone North America.
Yeah, this one looks really interesting actually.
You
I've
haven't
never
played it?
played it. No, I've
Oh,
never
yeah.
played it, but it looks really neat. Like kind of has that. I
Yeah.
like that style.
Yeah.
Very nice. So that was your number 75, Keystone North America. Do they have like a other location, different Keystone ones, or?
No, they've reprinted this already. Like it only came out. What year did it come out? It came out in. Where is it here? I just had it. It came out in 20. Where's the year? 2022.
Oh,
They've
that's
reprinted
fairly
it
recent.
already and kickstarted
Wow.
a new version. Yeah, kind of pissed me off.
Still North America.
Yeah, I kickstarted this one, got like the deluxe, and then literally 2 years later, they kickstarted an even more beautiful copy.
Why, I
And
wonder.
an
Weird.
expansion or whatever. So yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't like when they do that, especially 2 years apart. Because really, like, what was
I'm not
wrong
replacing
with
a
this
game
art?
after 2 years. Yeah.
Yeah, I could see if it was
Yeah.
like 10 years ago or something, but
I don't know. That's funny. Maybe they kind of like did so well. It's like, okay, we need to get more copies. Well, let's improve it a little. But yeah.
yeah. Well, they got whole new art on the new one, which I
Nice.
feel bad for the first artist because it was gorgeous.
Well, it
But
looks fun. Yeah, it looks good.
Yeah.
But all right. Well, my number 75 is not brand new. It is old. It's been around for a while, but it's so good. And that is Alhambra. It's a tile laying game. What I like about this one too is that as you build your Alhambra, which I guess is like a city square or whatever, like a village square, as you're playing this, there'll be at some point a card that comes and it's like, okay, everybody scores now. And you never know when that's going to be. And then you're going to do one set of scoring, then you're going to do a second set of scoring, then you're going to do final scoring. Another thing that is interesting is you have 4 builders that you can buy tiles from. And you can also collect money, but each builder needs to be paid in their currency of their location. So they all collect different currency. So you need to collect these 4 different currency to be able to buy the tiles from these 4 different builders to be able to add to your village square that you're building. And then how you place things in the village square as well. It's kind of, it got to make sense. You can't block things out. And then you got to try to also build the longest wall. And it is just so satisfying. And then if you're able to pay direct like exact change, because you can't make change. Be like, oh, okay, great. I have enough in that currency to buy that tile, which would fit perfectly here. It costs 3. I have 4. You're paying 4. Like you can't make change. But if you're able to pay the exact change, then you get a bonus for that. And I forget what the bonus is. If it's like an extra turn or
yeah, you get an extra turn right away.
Okay, so so then you get to go like with one more time. So, but this game, I remember I'm playing it, and then we're just a couple rounds in, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna love this game. I can just tell, like right away. It's like I am enjoying this, like So I really like it. It's still up there for me. I just really enjoy this game, and that's Alhambra, my number 75.
Yeah, I was just looking at my list. It didn't make my top 100, but I do love this game, unless I missed it on something. But
well, and we're doing games we've brought up, right? So it's possible maybe you didn't bring it up.
Yeah.
When would I have brought this one up?
I think I would have maybe even brought it up, possibly. But
in the tiling game, I think it came in my tiling.
I found it. You'll be
about
it later.
I'm surprised when it comes up.
You just don't know where it'll be, but I love this game. And
there you go.
I have the big box version, which was
nice
big box. And there's like tons of expansions in it, but one of my favorites is it adds change. So you have this little bag with like coins in it, and they're just cardboard coins, but you get to pull out when, I can't remember when or how, but then you can use those like to fill in, because sometimes you're short a little bit, so you can pay. Each of them have a color, so they're specific for the building colors, and it just makes it that much more satisfying, because then you can get all these extra turns with the coins. But that's just one I really remember. Yeah, good choice. All right, my number 74 is Beer and Bread, and this is another just 2-player game only. This is Ted, is it? No, Scott Alms. I was going to say.
Yeah.
Who was I thinking of? Yeah, Scott Alms. Ted Alstrom? No, who am I thinking?
Yeah, Scott Alms.
But it's Scott Alms. And this is a surprise that it's his because he does the tiny epics, right? Scott?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And so
He's branched out quite a bit, but yeah.
yeah. Well, and then he did like Land of Heroes, or what's it called?
Heroes of Land, Air, and Sea.
Which is like opposite of Tiny
Massive.
Epic. But this one feels almost like an Uwe Rosenberg game, but just like a small
It kind of does, yeah.
player version. And so what you are doing in this game is you have these little, what are they called? Not sheds, but like barns, I guess, where you have spots to store all these goods. So you have one on each of your side, and then you have these slots underneath for cards. Now, there's like a wet and a dry season, and there's probably, let's see, 4 of each of those. And so you start off, I believe, in the wet season, and you will draft cards in your hand to play, and then you will switch hands. So you can always see what's coming and going. And you will play these cards down. You will either play a card down to produce that item on the top, or you will play it as an upgrade and you'll slide it under your board. And there's all different types of upgrades you can get. You can get things to like upgrade your barn or upgrade your storage for once you've made beer and bread, because usually you can only have one of each card in a pile. You can upgrade. One is just an end game scoring points. I can't remember what all the other ones are, but it's neat because then if I produce another card, I get all of that plus what I already played down. So you continue to keep getting that. But you only have so much storage in your barn. So if you can't hold it, it goes to the other player. So it might work out perfectly for them. Which is awesome because it goes both ways. It sometimes works out perfectly for me where I have this spot and I really need that resource. And now I can build these cards because you're trying to build these beer and bread cards because they'll each give you points. Now, the neat thing is you need to balance them because your end game score is the lowest of the two. So the lowest of your 2 piles of beer and bread made. So you have to kind of continually just kind of even them out, putting, and some are worth more points than the other. It's just such a neat and clever game and a super quick game again, probably less than a half an hour, but just so awesome and so clever. And that's my number 74, Beer and Bread.
Yeah, no, I do like this one. I played it just the one time with you. Yeah. I don't own this game yet. But it was so satisfying in how what you did could affect the other players. So you had to kind of consider that as well.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, Beer and Bread was good. Number 74. My number 74 is another game that gets played a lot, mainly because Lily fell in love with it. We got her own copy so she could have it at her mom's as well. And this is also the game that kind of almost got started in the hobby. Because, I was always into board games, but I wasn't aware of modern board games. And, like you would go to Walmart, they weren't there. It was all party games. So I had tons of party games. And then my brother's like, okay, I got you a game for your birthday. And I was like, okay, oh, that's cool, thanks. And I was like, oh, I'm excited. I wonder what it is. He's like, well, do you want to know? I was like, no, don't tell me. I said, but give me a clue. And he says, all right, King is in the title. So I Googled it, board game with King, and then King of Tokyo came up. And I was like, oh, I bet you that is. And then I'm looking at the copy of King of Tokyo, and I'm like, why is he getting me a kid's game? Because it does look very childish, mostly if you're not familiar with the hobby at all. It's kind of like, okay. And honestly, this is a fairly light game, but it is neat and it is interesting. And you have a board. And depending on the player count, it mostly has like one spot. So you're either on the board or you're off the board. It's very straightforward. But what you are is we're all different monsters and we're trying to destroy Tokyo. And to win, you either want to be the last monster standing and you've destroyed everybody else, or you've accumulated 21 victory points. And there's different ways to collect victory points, but by going into Tokyo, you would gain 1 point for that. But for starting your turn in Tokyo, you get 2 points for that. then some of the cards will grant you points as well. And it's a dice rolling Yahtzee style battle game. So you would roll the dice. Now, if you roll, there's numbers 1, 2, and 3. If you roll 3 of them, you would get that many in points as well. So that's another way of getting a point. Now, if you roll a fist, or like I think it's claws, you're attacking the other player. But if you're inside of Tokyo, you attack everybody that's outside of Tokyo. If you're outside of Tokyo, you attack the person that is in Tokyo. And what's interesting is if you're in Tokyo, you cannot heal there. So if you take any damage there and you're starting to get low, you'd be like, okay, I'm out. And you pull out of Tokyo, then the person who attacks you has to go in, which is good. It gives them a point, but hopefully they have enough health to kind of maintain being in Tokyo, because everybody who's outside of Tokyo will be attacking you on their turn. It's neat. It's so clever. Richard Garfield is a great game designer. He's the one that designed Magic the Gatherings, right? So it's just so interesting. I absolutely really like this game. Lily fell in love with it, and we played it to death with her. And she had like crazy dice luck. She always won. But it was so satisfying, and this is one that we have played a lot. We have it. They also came out with like a dark version. I'm not going to replace it for the same game, but the dark version looks really good. They also have King of New York, which kind of adds bunch to King of, like, bunch of locations on the board that does different things. To me, I like the pure simplicity of how well King of Tokyo works. That's my favorite. King of New York is good, but it adds a complexity that wasn't needed, I think. But that's my number 74, King of Tokyo.
Nice. They're also making a duel, King of Tokyo.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we've played this 2 players. I wonder how it's going to change things up, but yeah.
Interesting. All right. My number 73 is New York Zoo. Now, this one is a polyomino game, but it's a race polyomino game. And how you go about this is you are drafting these animals around a rondel, and you have the option of either taking animals or taking tiles. And if you take tiles, you just place them in your zoo, and then you can add an animal from your home to it. If you take animals, you can either place them on one of the enclosures, which are the tiles, or you can place them in your home. And you are just trying to fill up your zoo. So once you've completed a tile, like bred these animals, because as you're moving around the rondel, certain animals will breed. If you have at least 2 or more of them in any of your enclosures, they will breed. And you could have a whole bunch of one type of animals in enclosures, and they will all breed. Then when you fill that tile up, you get to grab one of these bigger filler tiles, and they're mostly squares and rectangles, to fill up your zoo. So you're just trying to figure out how to fill up your enclosures as fast as possible in order to get these big tiles to fill in. Now, these polyominoes are not just, the basic ones. They have some really wonky ones. So you have to fit those in your zoo and then try to figure out how to, complete this. A lot of times I will end up so close to the end, but I have all these little holes that I have to fill with these little just single squares, and then I have to fill a complete enclosure to get one little square. I don't even know if I've ever won this game. I've played it with so many people. No, maybe I did beat John, but I don't know if I beat anybody else. I played with my daughter, friends on BGA. I don't know if I've even won on there. They have a solo variant too. Maybe
do you win that one?
But I think I might have. But it's not easy because it's got that race feel too, where you're like it's so close, but you're like, and anytime someone ends it, everybody's like 1 or 2 tiles away from winning it as well. So it's just one of those games where everybody's always in the running. And you just have to, figure out what's the best way to do this. Like sometimes I think what I was always doing wrong is I was getting all these different types of animals. Whereas if you get a bunch of one, then they're going to fill up faster. The only thing is you have to go around the whole rondel for it to breed. So then if you build all these animals, you wait for a whole, like probably 3 or 4 turns for it to come back around and breed them all. So I still haven't figured out the trick to winning this one, but it's fun and pretty, and all the little animals, of course, are like screen printed meeples. And you have like
Yeah, those are cool.
kangaroos and flamingos and just these cute, adorable ones. But it's awesome. I love it. And that's New York Zoo.
Nice. Very cool. Yeah, I think that one came up when we did our top 9 animal games, and it might
Oh,
have with the
probably.
tile laying game as
Yeah.
well. Very cool. My number 73 is also an animal game, and it also was on my list of top 9 animal games. And this is one that, I mean, the first time I played it, I enjoyed it. Now, my kids, however, really liked it. And then every time they'd be like, oh, let's play this one again. I'm like, okay. And then we would play it again, and then I would be like, oh, okay, that was really good. And like, I remember the last time I played, I was like, oh my God, that was like the most epic game ever. Like, I just love it more and more the more I play. And that is Evolution. And Evolution is really interesting, like, because everybody starts with an animal, and you basically have a card, and it's an animal. And what type of animals depend on what traits you're going to give it, right? So you could give it like a long neck with a shell. Like you could create whatever type of animals you want. And depending on the traits they have, it gives them like different ability. Maybe it develops fat tissue so it can store food, or maybe it just breeds quickly so you can build up its population. Or maybe it becomes a carnivore and it eats other animals. But if other animals are bigger, they can't eat them. And if you can't eat the other player's animals, you will have to eat your own as well. So there's that to consider. But as you play the game, food might become scarce. So if you're carnivore, then you're not worried about, having vegetation available to eat. You could eat the other animals. So there's that to consider as well. And it's really interesting. But what happens is you're going to have cards. And at the beginning of each round, everybody's going to put a card face down in the middle. And that gets flipped over. And the value is how much food is going in the watering hole, basically. And then you take turn going and collecting food and feeding your animals. And if you comes back, and you go around and around until everybody's fed, or until you run out of food. And be like, oh no, there's no more food, but I have all these animals I was supposed to be feeding. Well, then they're gonna die off. Like, it's really based on like evolution. But then if you give yourself the long neck, you can go and pick first, right? Because you can reach further, or you can reach before the other ones. And there's all these different traits that you can give your animals as you go. Now, the food, you put all of that behind this little, what is it?
Screen.
Screen. Jeez,
Yeah.
my God, I had lost that word. But yeah, you just put the food behind the screen, because the goal is to have been the player that has ingested the most food. And that's your victory points, basically. And then you can get more animals if you want. You can make them bigger. You can grow your population. You could get another animal. You could have tons of them, but then you have that many animals you need to maintain and feed. So it's just really interesting. I quite enjoy this one. And as I mentioned, every time I play it, I love it more. Now, I know there's a lot of expansions. We have the flight expansion. I haven't tried it yet. I don't play tons with expansions. There is a climate expansion as well, where it goes from like cold ice age to like warmer weather, and then different animals have to, you know, evolve for that, to manage that as well. And then they made an ocean version of this, which is a whole own standalone game, but that plays similar to it. And yeah, that's my number 73, Evolution.
Nice. Have you played Oceans?
No, I haven't.
No, I haven't either. I would like to try it. They're
Mm.
also coming out with, it's on Kickstarter right now. It's called Nature, and it's basically evolution, but like with like our animals, not
Oh,
dinosaurs
okay,
or
yeah,
whatever.
yeah.
And so I think it's the same play. Looks beautiful,
Mm.
but again, like really cutthroat, because you can, eat other people, eat other animals. I have the card version. It's called Evolution: The New Beginning, and it's a quicker play of it, but still
Oh,
gives
okay,
you the same
cool.
feel. It's really neat. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. All right. So my number 72 is my big boy here. This is the heavy one that I have on this list, and this is Robinson Crusoe. Now,
Oh, yes.
I've had the original game for a long time. It was so beat up. My board was ripped in half. I did play it a lot solo and never could win this game. Like maybe won once or twice. It's so hard. So I'm like, you know what? I'm done playing with this solo. I'm going to sell it. Then all of a sudden, this big, beautiful, grandio deluxe version came out. And I'm like, oh no, it's so pretty. And I'm like, you know what? I'm going to buy it because I like playing this one with other people. I don't like soloing this one. My brain doesn't function soloing this game. I need other input and other brains, but I do really enjoy it with other people. And I am glad I got it, but it's such a hard game. You are literally stranded on a desert island. It's very, very thematic. You are trying to escape this island depending on the scenario. There's tons of scenarios. Comes with this big spiral bound beautiful book that has all these different scenarios in, and you just can pick one and it'll give you like how, some easy ones, some medium, some hard ones, some impossible ones. But what you are doing is you are hunting and gathering and building, and you're trying to feed yourself every round and trying to heat, like the fire, trying to build shelters for yourself. Because as the rounds go on, you're going to start rolling these weather dice, and you're going to have rain and snow. And if you don't have shelter, you're going to lose food and wood and whatnot. But you have to all work together, and you all have these like player powers that each of you can do something unique that the others can't. You are trying to keep morale up, because if morale goes down, you can lose the game. But you also will have to give up these determination tokens that you don't want to give up, because those will let you do extra actions. But if you have high morale, you're going to get these every round. So there's just so much going on in this game. It's very, very complicated. There's so many things to build and so many different ways to go about trying to win these scenarios, but it's just so fun. I love it. There's dice rolling, because every time you hunt or gather, you have to roll dice, and you could actually fail just from the dice roll. You could succeed though, but then you also have rolled like a question mark, because you're always rolling 3 dice, and that would mean you'd have to pick up a card, and most of those cards are bad things. Sometimes you get good things out of them, but a lot of times they're bad, and they're going to go back into the event deck, so they're going to come back to haunt you even worse. It feels like there's so many difficult things in this game, but it makes it that much more satisfying when you win, and I have won with people. I don't think, maybe I've won once or twice. That maybe what kept me going, but it's just so beautiful. And the deluxe copy came with this big player mat that fits everything, so you don't have to have this game board, which I had snapped in half accidentally, so I don't have to worry about that. It has these 3D well, it has like minis, but I'm not the one that's crazy about minis, but it has minis that are like the shelter. So you literally will build up this shelter and make it bigger and bigger, which is so cool. That I do like, but the player pieces, I could just do with pawns, or like meeples, or even like that new acrylic mini thing is really neat, or acrylic standees. But everything about it is just so thematic and fun. Fun in a way, frustrating fun, if that's a thing, but to me it is. But yeah, that's my number 72, Robinson Crusoe.
Nice, that's cool. My number 72, you know what? There was I can't remember. I think it was in 2018. I went to New Brunswick for a week. And my cousin was there as well. And I went alone. And he was there because he was in med school. So he's like, hey, I need to decompress. And I was dealing with stressful stuff. And I was like, needed an escape as well. And the two of us, for a week straight, from noon to midnight, every day, we pulled out this game and we played it. We played it to death. And this is One Deck Dungeon. And it's really cool. Now, recently I've played Kingfire Delve, and this one reminds me a lot of that. There's a lot of similarities to it. So with this one here, like it's 1 to 2 players, so we were playing 2 players all the time. You each get a character. Your character will have access to different dice that they will be rolling. So you're trying to select characters that complement each other, so all the colors are represented. And you have the dungeon cards, and you'll have 4 face down available, and they have a little door on it. And on your turn, you're going to flip it over, and this card will either be a trap that you need to kind of get through or a monster that you need to defeat. And there'll be different section on there of what is required. And like the trap, I think you can either do like the top one or the bottom one, and you need to have dice that will have those values to be able to make it through. The monster one will have different segments, and you need to fulfill all of them in order to defeat them. Now you're going to take your dice, you're going to roll. Eventually, you're going to kind of level up, because let's say we roll our dice and be like, okay, so this one needs a 5 or higher of the blue. I just rolled a 2, and that was our only blue dice. So we're not going to be successful with this one. Now you can combine dice together to make them into a black dice, but then that black dice would take the lowest value, the lowest pip value, but then it becomes wild and can be used for any color. So depending on how you roll, that might be great, that might not be helpful because the values are too low, but then you're kind of covering the different things that you can see. Now if you don't cover it up, you still succeed. You still get rid of the cards. You still move forward. But you need to take the location that you didn't cover up. You need to take the negative of it. So either you're going to take health damage, and then you would kind of put the hearts on your character to show you've taken some health damage, or you're going to be losing time, and it flips cards out of the dungeon, which is very similar to the Kingfire Delve there. Now, in this game, you're trying not to go through the dungeon too quickly, because each card's going to give you either new dice that you can add to your character, or a different ability that you can tuck in underneath, or you could discard it to get the XP points so that you can level up, so that you can hold more cards. And there's different ways that you can use it, so there's very much a lot of like multi-use with the cards. And I think this game was on my multi-use card game episode that we did, and that was it would have been up there in that one. But then, so yeah, you don't want to go through the deck too quickly, because you need to collect all these abilities and power yourself up and collect XP so you can kind of collect more. And then once you get to the bottom, then you get the big boss monster that you need to defeat. And depending on, like, there's, I think 6 different monsters you would go through. And, so it changes up. It's so neat. Like I said, I have played this one to death from noon to midnight nonstop for like a week straight. We played the whole thing. We did every single scenarios. You can play a campaign so that from game to game, you build up your character and you become stronger. And you almost have to, because the first time we played, we're like, oh my God, we died. We made it nowhere near the bottom. It was like, everything's dead. We just... oh my God, but we had gained some stuff, so you level up. So, okay, let's go again. We have our stronger character. It was so good. It was so good. I just absolutely adore this game. They have like a 4th version. I used to own both. I only own the base game now because I was trying to call my collection a little bit. I think most I've ever sold is like 40 games out of my collection. The second version of this one was one of them. They now have come out with One Deck Galaxy. I have purchased that one. I haven't played it yet, so I don't know how it changes things. I regret selling the Forest one. This game is so good. But I was like, okay, well, if I'm going to get rid of games, and I was really decided, I don't know why. Peer pressure probably, but I'm over that right now.
How dare they?
I was probably running out of room.
I have the expansion. You can borrow it and try it.
Oh,
You
there
can
you
see
go.
it.
Well, I mean, I've played it because I had both at the
Oh,
time,
okay.
and we played it to death. Like, it's not like I need it,
Yeah, it's just
but
more of the characters. Like it's not.
it's
It
just,
doesn't
yeah, you get
change it
different
really.
characters.
Oh,
It adds poison.
there's one little
Um,
thing it adds. That's right.
yeah, but yeah, no, really, really enjoy this game. It's a tiny little game, but I just love it, and that's my number 72, One Deck Dungeon.
Yeah, it's good. I had just bought it a few months ago and played it. It's good to easy to
Oh,
play
nice.
solo too, but fun with with
Yeah,
another person because you're like, oh, I need that dice roll. But
yeah,
yeah, no, it's fun. All right, last one of the day. My number 71
yes.
is another two-player game. I have three two-player games only on this list, and this is Seven Wonders Duel. This used to be my favorite two-player game. I don't know if I did that list again, if it would be number one, just because there's so many good ones that have come out. But this
Mhm.
one is awesome. I don't really love the big game, Seven Wonders. I mean, I'll play it and I like
Yeah.
it. It's not one that I will grab to play often, but it's a nice one to play with when you have a bunch of people because it doesn't really add to the time. But this
Hmm.
two-player game I really love. Um, it takes the drafting and turns it into a tableau drafting. And it's cool how it does it because there's three different rounds, and each round, I think there's three different rounds, but
Yeah.
you draft them in a different way. So one round might be like an upside down pyramid, how you draft them, and then the next one might be like a normal pyramid. But it's neat because they're not all face up. They're always like, two face up, and then the ones they're on top of, those are face down, and then the ones those are on top of, they're face up. So you don't see all the cards. So the only way to reveal those is to take any card that is on top of it, and then it is revealed. So a lot of times you are trying to not reveal those to the other person. You want them to reveal them to you because they might be something really juicy. What you are trying to do is build up your like civilization by gaining resource cards, gaining science symbols, and some military. Now, in this version, compared to the big game, you can literally win by military or win by science if you have pushed the military track towards the other person all the way to the end, or if you've collected so many science symbols, that's like a win condition. Um, Another win condition is, well, just basically points at the end. But how you do that is you will draft these wonders at the beginning too. Whereas in the big game, you only have like your one big wonder board, but you'll each have four wonders that you have drafted, and then only seven of them can be built throughout the game. So if everybody builds theirs, one person is not going to be able to build their fourth.
Hmm.
And they are neat because once you build them, they give you either like money or resources or possibly another turn or multiple of those things. But you can use the cards as they're like multi use cards as well because you can build them as a building. You can use them to build a wonder. You can use them, give them like toss them and take money for them. There's all kinds of different things you can do. There's like two expansions for this. The one expansion I really love. The other one is a little complicates it a little too much, makes it, not it doesn't feel like the game anymore. But the first expansion is really cool because it adds this other little track where you have these other like god cards that you can build, and how you place them is really neat because you could place them where it's really expensive for the other person to buy and really cheap for you, or if it's a card you don't really like, you can place it over towards them so that they can buy it, but they're face down, I think. Haven't played the expansion in a while, but so they're not even sure what they are, but
Hmm.
it's such a cool game, and just I just love that open drafting and some closed drafting because you can't see all the cards. Then you have like the purple cards, which give you all the really big end game points, and depending what cards you've built in your tableau, they might really work for you or they might really work for the other player. There's a lot of hate drafting in this, but I find it a two-player battle head-to-head game. Like if it's totally expected, I don't mind that kind of
Yeah.
head-to-head because that's what the whole game is about. So this one just, I don't know, it's just so good. It's like quite popular. A lot of people do love this game, but it's definitely for a reason. And yeah, that's my number 71, Seven Wonders Duel.
Yeah, this one is good. And it looks so good on the table
Yeah.
with like the color. Yeah. I mean, and I gotta say, this era is my favorite because the blue is so striking. The brown one looks a lot less pretty, but
Yeah.
it's such a neat game. And I agree, like Seven Wonders, the base, like the Seven Wonders game, I find every time we play that one, if there's new players, it takes almost an entire game to be like, oh, I get it.
Yeah.
But then the game's over.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
it's not a simple one to grasp, per se. But yeah, no, Seven Wonders Duel is really good.
Mhm.
All right, and my number 71, the last one for this segment, I guess. And that one is Camel Up, second edition. Just because second edition is such a good looking board. You open it and you have this pop-up oasis, and you have this plastic pyramid that you're going to put the dice in. Then you shake the pyramid and you push a number or a button on the side, and a dice comes out, and that color of the dice is the color of the camel that's going to move forward by 1, 2, or 3 depending on what's on the dice. And what's interesting is if the camel lands on another camel and the camel that it's on top of move, and it brings the camels that's on top of it, and then you have these crazy camels that are racing backwards on the track. And the whole point of the game is to be the player that has made the most money betting on this game, on this race. And the game ends as soon as one camel reaches the victory line and completes the lap. But you'll bid on each round, and you'll bid on the overall outcome of the race of who you think the winner is going to be and who you think the loser is going to be. And if you bid correctly the earliest, you get more points. But if you're cautious and be like, well, I'm going to wait to see how it pans out, then you're not going to get as many points. But then you lose point if you bid wrong as well, so you don't want to bid too fast. I think this might have made our push your luck list because we did our top 9 push your luck. I might have put this one and this one.
Maybe a race too.
Yeah, did we do a racing game?
No, maybe.
Maybe we did our top 9 race games, but because I seem to think we did, but that would have made it for that one as well. Camel Up is a game that is simple, easy to play. It plays a fairly large group of people, so it is super satisfying. It's just so much fun. It's so good. It's a crowd pleaser and it's fun. I think honestly everybody should own this. Like it would fit in everybody's collection. Unless you're gonna be a solo only, don't get this one, or 2-player only. But you know, if you're gonna be a larger group, this is a great game that'll work for that. And I think it's so good. And that's why it's my number 71, Camel Up.
Awesome. Yeah, maybe we haven't. It definitely was in the push your luck, but maybe we haven't done race. We might have to do that one.
Really?
There's a lot of race games.
Yeah.
I'll have to look through and see if we have. But yeah, good list.
Yeah, we're getting in the good stuff. I mean, like, honestly, we play so many games that top 100 are really good.
Yeah.
Top 200 are great.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
No,
And it's been interesting to kind of revisit the game we've talked about on the episode and made our list out of those. I think that was good. That, by the way, was a suggestion from one of our listeners, Matthew, because we had put out there, was like, okay, so top 100, or we're doing our 100th episode. We want to celebrate in a big way. What should we do? And this is something that was suggested. I was like, okay, actually, that I kind of love that. So
yeah.
It's been a lot of fun.
It's his birthday today. Happy birthday,
It's
Matthew.
his birthday. Okay, so it's not going to be the birthday when it airs,
No.
but today, when we're filming it, is his birthday. So, yeah, that's great. That's awesome. Great.
All right. Well, next week we will continue our top 100. So we will be doing 70 to 61. And then we are going to take a slight break to do a spooky game or Halloween list that we're going to put together. And then we'll get back to our top 100. But until then, where can people find you?
So, first of all, as I mentioned, we do have our Discord. Be sure to follow us on that. I'll put the link down below. Sometimes the link doesn't work. So, if it doesn't work, message me. I'll send it to you directly. I'm also on Facebook. My Facebook page is Mel's Board Game Room. On Instagram, it's Mel's _ board game _ room. And I also have my YouTube channel, which is Mel's Board Game Room. How about you,
Awesome.
Carla? Where can we find you?
I'm at boardgamespecialist, all one word, on Instagram, and on Facebook I have Red Deer Board Game Fanatics. Well, thank you
Wonderful.
all for listening, and we'll talk to you next time. Bye,
Bye,
everybody.
everybody.